Hello everybody and welcome back to another video by Funland Tutorials. So I was explaining the concept of absolute advantage. So there are two countries and then there are two commodities. I want to remind that this matrix is in hours. So it essentially means that the units of the entries in the matrix are in hours. The importance of mentioning this is because there are other ways of expressing this matrix which I will be discussing in the next videos. So what happens is, I made a little matrix here. Now what does it mean? So country A can spend 20 hours in, so I said that country A can, each person in country A can spend 10 hours in making 1 unit of X. So in 20 hours they can make 2 units. Similarly, each person in country A takes 20 hours to make just 1 unit of X. So people in country A can, using the same 20 hours, can either make 2 units of X or 1 unit of X. Similarly, in country B, the same people can take 20 hours to make either 1 unit of X, or in 20 hours they can make 2 units of Y, because it just takes 10 hours to make 1 unit of Y. Now each country can have 2 choices. They can either make just X or just Y, or X and Y combined. So if I think of just 20 hours as the unit, that will make life a little bit easier, not the easiest but a little bit easier. So in 20 hours, country A, if it produces just X, it can make 2 units of that X. But if it makes just Y, it can make just 1 unit of Y. And if it decides to make, no, I want to make both. I want to make 1 unit of X and let's see how many units of Y. So this is just 2 units of commodities, 1 unit of commodity, which is X for this case and Y for this case. So if it decides to produce 1 unit of X and 1 unit of Y, it will possibly spend the first 10 hours to make 1 unit of X, and it has 10 more hours to go because it's spending 20 hours. In the 10 hours it can make half unit of Y, right, because it needs 20 hours for 1 unit of Y. In 10 hours it can make half unit. So 1 unit of X and half unit of Y, so 1.5 units of commodities, because it's X and Y both. So you can see in the same 20 hours, the most it can produce is X. It has the highest efficiency in X. So what this means is country A has an absolute advantage, this absolute advantage in X. Similarly, if you think of country B can spend 20 hours to make 1 unit of X. That was as I said in the matrix. And if it spends the same 20 hours to produce Y, it can make 20 of so, because it just takes 10 hours to make 1 unit of Y. So if it decides to produce just X, it will end up with only 1 unit. But if it wants to produce Y, it can actually make 2 units of Y, because it's more quote unquote efficient again in making Y. Going by the same logic, it can make it, if it wants to produce both X and Y, country B can use the first 10 hours to make 1 unit of Y, and then the rest 10 hours from the 20 hours it can make half unit of X. So that's 1 unit of Y and a half unit of X, so that's 1.5 commodities. So here what we find is the country B is most efficient. It can produce the most amount of Y, right? So we say country B has an absolute advantage in producing Y. So this entails the two countries to exchange one good for the other. So country A will say, look, I am very good at producing X, let me produce every X, and once I am done, I will exchange some amounts of my X with some amounts of Y. And B says, okay, then let me produce every Y, because I am very good at producing Y, I'll make everything Y and I'll just exchange them with you. Where is the happiness in it? When A gives up 1 unit of X, it's giving up something that is worth 10 hours to them, because X is just 10 hours to them. But when it exchanges 1 unit of X for 1 unit of Y, this Y, it's just giving up 10 hours worth something, but it's actually getting something that's worth 20 hours to them. So they are saving 10 hours of their life or day, whatever. So this is a big benefit for them. They are giving up something which is a lot less costly for them, something that is cheaper for them, and they are getting something which is more expensive to them in terms of working hours. The same thing is true for country B as well. Country B is giving up something that is just worth 10 hours to them, and it's getting something that's worth 20 hours to them. They are getting X out of it, which is worth 20 hours to them, and country A is getting Y out of it, which is again worth 20 hours to them. So both of these countries are better off. They have two commodities at hand. If they were to produce the two commodities, they would have just 1.5 units, but now they can have 2 units of 1 unit of X and 1 unit of Y, because they are exchanging. This is similar to if you are very good in maths and your friend is very good in English, you can just promise your friend, look, I'm going to study maths very hard, and the night before the exam I'm going to teach you maths, and your friend says, then I will do everything in English and I'll teach you everything in English the day before the exam. So you're both better off, because you're very good at studying maths. You can study a lot more in maths, and your friend is very good in English or economics, and your friend can spend more time and they can advance far faster than you, because you're only good in maths. So it's like sharing your notes, right? Everybody does the best that they are good at. This is the theory of absolute advantage. And then whatever you're good in, whatever you have absolute advantage in, you end up doing that, and at the end of the day you exchange that, and then both the countries are better off. This is the theory of absolute advantage. Now this plays a crucial role. There is other possible interpretations and alterations of this matrix, and I'm going to be explaining in details about possible alternative explanation for the same matrix.